Hi everyone, today we are talking about women in mythology. Today I will be showing you a collection of books I have regarding women who are in mythology, and I will talk to you guys about why I recommend these books. So, getting right into it, warriors, witches, women. Mythology's fiercest women. This book, I honestly had no clue what I was buying. I really didn't. I saw this book online and was like, oh, this looks cool. I love mythology. And then I added it to my cart. Then I got it and was absolutely just in love with it. It starts off with the quote, "We are the granddaughters of the witches you weren't able to burn." I love it. This book basically dives into women that are magical in one sense or another. This book includes a lot of illustrations and is written in a way to not only express how important these women are, but also empower the reader. Very, very strong feminine energy. It's very, very powerful. My favorites that are included are Lilith. She was basically outcasted and made to be a demon, but all she really wanted was equality, and the fact that she has been rebranded recently as a feminist icon is very appropriate. I love her. It's really, really sad that a lot of these mythical women are listed as like demonic or really evil, but in reality, like they didn't really do anything wrong besides want rights. Eve is not included in this book, but I've been seeing a lot lately how women are told to diet throughout their entire lives, and the first sin was Eve eating an apple or eating a fruit. Like, the first sin was women eating. That is so, like, what? That's crazy. Harpies are also mentioned, and I love harpies. I love sirens. I also really like the story of Cassandra. And in general, I just really enjoy how in depth this book is regarding each person and spirit that is mentioned. Medusa is also included in this story, and I just have to mention how I find it really important how Medusa is being mentioned more and more often in a lot of women's mythology books. Growing up, I was taught the tale of Medusa, and people talked about the Medusa story as if she deserved to be beheaded. And once I got older, I read more about Medusa, and the way we're taught the Medusa story as kids is so wrong. Because if you read the actual story, Medusa is not the problem here. Medusa is a victim, and she obviously did not deserve to be slandered or beheaded. If you think about it, the Medusa story, growing up, like learning about it as a kid, it taught, I say, a lot of people to victim blame. But once you know the full story and you talk to people about it, they're like, oh, Medusa isn't actually bad? What? Medusa literally was punished for being a victim, and so many people were told that Medusa is the evil person here, but in reality, the person who hurt her is the evil person. So I find it very, very important that Medusa is being talked about more often now, because it's not okay how Medusa was slandered. And people are just telling other people growing up that Medusa's the problem, she's the problem, when in reality she is not the problem. She was victim blamed and is very much a survivor. And the fact that people are even taught that Medusa is the problem just speaks volumes on how behind we still are as a society. Because why on earth are you blaming women who are victims? Why isn't your first instinct to blame the person who hurt that person? Right? So, like, people don't realize it, but it really does seem like men have written these stories to paint women as bad so that they could have less rights. And obviously, a lot of men feel like if women have less rights, it means men have more power. So it's the power hungry, no morals type of stuff. It's just like really sad. This is why I say that like Athena is bad, because like obviously you could say she's a victim too because she's a victim of misogyny. However, I feel like, just in my opinion, if you're going to not defend other women, then you also are partaking in misogyny. So you're just as bad as the men who are also trying to hurt women. I don't even think it's a coincidence that goddesses like Athena or even Artemis have like misogynistic traits because men most likely were behind the creation of them and writing the stories about them. So to have misogynistic goddesses, women who are on Earth will hear about this and then agree with it and then just be okay with men controlling them. I feel like it's a very deep subject. I need a podcast. Anyway, my point is, no wonder why societies could be misogynistic if the stories they teach to their children and their families and generations are misogynistic. Because we really do learn from things that we were taught from religions, mythologies. I think religion and mythology are the same thing, kind of, but religion, mythology, that stuff is held like so close to people's hearts. So obviously, like, if a god is misogynistic, then obviously the people will copy that. So I'm not surprised that people view Medusa as evil when Athena is viewed as so great, even though she really isn't. Lilith is also viewed as, like, demonic or really, really evil because she was punished. But, like, just because somebody is punished doesn't mean they actually did anything wrong, which is really, really sad. So societies have been taught, like, Lilith is bad, Medusa is bad, Pandora was bad, but, like, it doesn't mean they were bad. It just means that people really hate women and are trying to teach society to also hate women to keep them, I guess, locked down so they can't be free. Because if people hate women, why would they defend them? Why would they stick up for them? But it's just so sad, though, because, like, for centuries, women have fallen for this, like, misogyny that God's inflicting onto the people on Earth. And a lot of women just agree with it because God said so. So it's just sad because, like, they're partaking in misogyny while also being a victim of it. It's just so complicated and it's just so hard to work through. But I'm glad we're at least talking about it.
Which I had to mention how women may also teach other women and even their children misogyny because, like, if you believe in religion and religion teaches you that women are lesser than men, then obviously the women who believe that may also teach their children that, and then it just spreads like a wildfire, and it's just so contagious and it's so sad. Which I had to mention that point because even though women are a victim of misogyny, you cannot deny that there is plenty of women who, just like Athena, they will not defend other women, and they will also victim blame other women. And it just is the worst thing ever because I think it's so dumb when women go against women because, like, how dare you go against your own kind? Like, how dare you fall for the trap of God and just agree with the men who are creating this story of how women are evil or are monsters or deserve less. It's just so crazy.
It's just so important that women stick together and defend each other because the second there is, like, one woman who decides to go against other women, men just, like, latch onto her and are like, see, there's someone who agrees with us, and they use her as, like, the golden person to go to who they could use to further perpetuate their misogyny and their power over women and making stuff worse. Like, it's already hard enough to get women's rights, so when women go against women's rights, you're making it harder for every other woman. Like, how dare you want to make it harder for other people? It's just the most selfish thing ever. And although I understand why people could be misogynistic because of mythology and religions you're taught growing up, it's not an excuse. Like, you have to, like, move on past that and realize that, like, people have feelings and they deserve rights. But basically, I find it really, really cool that Medusa and Lilith were included in these books, as well as Cassandra, too. It's just really cool to have the stories told from a feminist perspective. I think it's really, really important. So, with my full heart here, Warriors, Witches, Women is a really, really, really great book. And while we're at it, get the Feminism book, Big Ideas Simply Explained. It doesn't dive into every single problem that women ever face, but it is a really, really good starting point. And I thought I would mention it because after diving into mythology and then seeing how the real world is and how women are treated, it's just really important to stay I guess, informed on the topics of women's rights as well as mythology. I just feel like the two tie in together really well, and it explains a lot about why the world could be messed up. Because if you're teaching problematic stories to people for centuries, no wonder why society is messed up. Like, if Lilith got punished for wanting equal rights, then no wonder why a lot of women feel the need to be silent. If Medusa got punished, beheaded for being a victim, no wonder why a lot of women to this day do not come forward about whatever they have suffered through. Anyway, next up, Pandora's Jar. Women in Greek myths. This book basically just dives into women like Pandora, Medusa, and a few others. It does mention how it's crazy how a lot of women are demonized in stories. Like, of course a woman opened the jar. Of course Eve, a woman, took the apple. Of course Medusa suffers with problems. Meanwhile, men continue to thrive. Also, I think it's really important to mention how men also suffer when there isn't women's rights. I know this is going to sound like the wokest thing you've ever heard, but toxic masculinity is really, really painful. And I found a book called The Man They Wanted Me to Be about toxic masculinity. I have not read it yet. However, I'm looking forward to reading it, so just wanted to throw it in here. Because the structures that men have created for women to follow are also making men fail, which is just so weird. By preventing women from being free, you are also preventing yourself from being free. It's like the most subtle form of karma, I guess. But it is like so important for not only women to stick up for women, but it's also extremely important for men to defend women as well, because men are more likely to listen to men. So if most men are misogynistic, then most likely the other men will agree because of that like pack mentality. So we really do need not only more women sticking up for women, but also lots of men. We really, really need men to be on the side of women, because men have pretty much started misogyny, so they would probably be able to end it as well. But anyway, moving on. We can't forget to mention the icon, Lilith, of course. I have two books on Lilith. We have the Book of Lilith, which is probably the best thing I have ever read, ever. It just dives into every layer of Lilith that there possibly is. And I just really love this book and am going to reread it because I love it so much. I really love the book because it really gets you thinking more, I'd say, effectively on women's rights and mythology. And like I said before, the more you learn about mythology, I think the more it explains why women struggle today with women's rights, as well as why there is oppression that is caused by men. And I'm like really surprised that more people haven't looked towards religion to realize why I think misogyny has started. Like, not to get thrown off track, but like, the last I checked, religion is a huge reason why people are misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, speciesist. Like, it's just kind of a big problem. I also got the book Welcoming Lilith. I didn't read it yet. But it basically gives a rundown of Lilith in basically every sense that there is. If you are looking to use Lilith as a way of embracing femininity or just empowering yourself. I also have Epona, which is a book about Epona, the equine goddess. It is extremely in-depth, and I thought I would mention her because she is a woman in mythology. It also has, like, a few theories that are really, really interesting. But moving on, I also thought I would include Seduction and the Secret Power of Women, The Lure of Sirens and Mermaids, because Lilith is mentioned in this book. I also thought I would mention Merpeople, A Human History, because mermaids are stereotypically women. And I just find it kind of crazy how mermaids, sirens, harpies, they're all women. And they are kind of meant to be seen as like a bad omen. Like, I just feel like there's something about it that's just so deeply rooted in misogyny that we really need to understand and learn more about. In the beginning of the book, it does show how a lot of these mermaids are sexualized. They pretty much are sex symbols. And I just find that kind of crazy because Nothing is wrong with women or even men expressing sexuality or being a sex symbol, in my opinion, because, like, it's kind of part of nature. However, what bothers me is how sexuality of women is used to, like, scare people like it's evil. You know, Lilith wanting to be free is evil. It's just something to think about, and although it's a way deeper conversation, again, these are really good starting points. So I guess that is pretty much it with these books. Like, I love them a lot, and they are really good starting points. They're really good things to read upon if you are interested in women in mythology, feminism. I need to start a podcast for topics like these. But basically, I guess that's it. Let's keep the comment section civil. That is it for today. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!